Thanks everyone for joining me and Iconic today on your lunch break, potentially, or it might just be a little break for yourself as well. You're very welcome. So just give you a quick introduction about myself and what I do, and then we'll get into the planning and preparing healthy foods and my kind of tips around that for you. Just to start off really by saying, as well as Christina mentioned there, flexibility is key, for everybody at the moment, in relation to we don't really know what's around the corner with the whole pandemic and life. So my approach to preparing and planning your meals is exactly that, as well as being flexible. And I know co-working spaces is ideal for that too. So it's all interlinked. Flexibility, balance, that's the main approach that we should be taking when we're doing really anything in life, okay? So Eat Food Right is the name of my business. I retrained. I was a teacher in a previous life, and I worked in business development, and I went back to retrain in nutrition a few years ago. Named the company Eat Food Right because for me it is more than just eating certain foods. It's also about the how, when, where, and why you eat. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit around that as well today. But the main premise of what I'm going to talk about today is planning and preparing foods for yourself. Now everyone's context around this is different. So you might be preparing and planning food for yourself to eat at home all of the time. You might have, learned, how to do that at a better level during lockdown, and you might want to perfect it a little bit more. You might want to be preparing food for yourself and your families at home to bring with you somewhere, potentially like summer holiday picnics or back into the workspace. So it's all relative to your context. So I'm going to speak around the broader elements of preparing and planning food for yourselves at home, but it's all relative to your context. So, do you have small children that you need to bear in mind? Are you vegan? It's all relative to your context. Okay. So first and foremost, just to say around that, what is nutrition, right? This is the key in anything that you do for yourself around food, is to understand that nutrition is food and you, okay? So your body and my body are different. Therefore, what my body needs and what your body needs are different. So just always bear that in mind. Again, when I'm speaking today around planning and preparing foods, I'll throw out broad examples of healthy foods that, that the world deems to be healthy, but equally you might be intolerant to those things, so bear that in mind, okay? Why is food so important? Okay, well, it's right there. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you've heard of him, he's a business guru, and he basically devised this hierarchy based on, if we can get all of these things aligned, we will reach our point of self-actualization. Right there at the bottom, we need to be feeding ourselves well. So we need food, water, warmth, and rest, okay? Without those things, we cannot expect to flow or to be in our best state. So preparing and planning meals for me, is a no-brainer. It's something that, I literally dream about that. I could dream on a Sunday night what my week of food's going to look like for the next week, okay? And that excites me, and that also helps my digestion as well in advance of preparing and planning and eating the food, So it really is good to view food as nourishment and nutrition for your body, and that's what I'm going to talk around today. So I've already spoken a little bit about what do I mean by eat food right. Okay, so just to kind of give you the 30 seconds on this, I could talk around this for an hour, but I'm just going to give you the 30 seconds on it. So it's really important that we eat when we're relaxed, okay? Our body can only digest food to its full potential when we are in a relaxed state. I'm sure you've heard of the saying, to rest and digest, okay? So sit, stop, be mindful, eat your food. Think about what you were eating, what is on your plate when you were eating it, and what that is doing for your body and for your brain, okay? Chew your food, the more you chew, the better you poo, and it's really true, okay? So it really is. And if bowel issues are a problem for you, that is a simple step, as well as increasing fiber or maybe decreasing it if you're going too frequently, to improve your bowel health, okay? If you can, I know myself, during lockdown, I ate my 3 meals every day at my own table. That was a pure luxury for me for like, a 6-week period or something like that, to sit at my own table and eat 3 meals a day there. I really enjoyed it, okay? I was really mindful and grateful that I could do that. So, again, stop, be conscious of where you're eating, take the time to eat. It's important, okay? A big kind of faux pas in my world is to be rushing around, grabbing something to eat, standing, let's walk and eat. No, We should be sitting and eating and enjoying our food, okay? Why do you eat? Another big question to ask yourself in relation to anything that you do, okay? Why are you doing what you do? You know, if you can answer that before you do it, you're halfway, 80% of the way there. So why do you want to prepare and plan your meals at home to the level that you would like to, okay? Is it for better health? Is it to you know, to become quicker at preparing food at home? You know, is it to feed your family better? You know, ask yourself that question before you start to plan and prepare. What are you eating? Okay, I'm going to talk around that in relation to the planning and preparing. But the big ones for me that I get people to ask themselves before they plan and prepare is, what foods do you like currently? You know, do we think that they are good for you and nutritious? If they are, let's keep eating them, okay? Are you eating, you know, the 3 macronutrients at every meal, proteins, carbs, and fats? If not, why not? We need to look at that and adjust into that into your plan. And snacks. Do you snack a lot? Are you eating around the clock? And do you need to? Okay. So intermittent fasting, I have listed up there under when do you eat. So to describe that just very briefly for you, it literally means, you know, taking a break from eating. We all should do that. If you can do that for a 12-hour period every day, so if you finish your dinner at 8 and you don't have breakfast till 8 the next morning, you've given yourself a break of 12 hours of a fast from eating. That allows your body to get into a state of autophagy, which is basically cellular cleansing. So it allows your cells to cleanse out, it allows your body to rest and to digest, your hormones reset, and it sets you up for a better next day, okay? So just be mindful of that if you're snacking late into the evening. You know, do you need to, okay? What's your context? They're all linked, so you get these things right, it will lead to you being more planned and prepared in relation to your food going forward and your meals going forward, okay? So what do we mean by healthy foods? Again, all relative to your context, okay? But in general, whole foods, what does that mean? Foods that don't come potentially in a package with ingredients. So one ingredient. So that could be a sweet potato. It might be red meat. It might be a tin of chickpeas, okay? It's in a tin, but they're just the chickpeas, okay? Protein, carbs, and fats. These are your 3 macronutrients, okay? Protein is 9 essential amino acids. I'm not going to get into science today, but basically that means we need those essential. They're essential amino acids for our body, okay? And we don't store protein. So we need to keep topping up on it in order to get those amino acids into our body, okay? Carbohydrates. There are no essential carbohydrates. However, we do need them for energy, okay? The type that we need, though, is really important. The type that we need and the type that we choose. So I would say to you, choose as unrefined as possible on the fibrous side. So when you're thinking carb, you're thinking fiber. So if you're having a sandwich, for example, you should be looking at the bread and thinking, what fiber is in this for me? If it's a white slice pan, the answer is very little. If it's rye bread, for example, there is more in it, okay? So ask yourself that question. The essential fats, there are 2 of them, omega-3 and 6, really important for our brain and our cell health, okay? Your brain is 75%, if not a little bit more, fat. Your cells are protected by a membrane of fat, okay? Without fat in your body, healthy fat, without putting it in, you are not protecting your brain or your cells. So healthy fats are really, really important and good for you, okay? So we'll look at these now in a second. Look at the ingredients, labels lie. That's the back of the pack, look at it. Aim to eat food and not formulations, and all calories are not equal. You need to focus on portion sizes and nutrition, okay? That's really key here. You know, people can be overwhelmed by what calories are in this? How many calories did I eat today? Too many calories yesterday. I need to eat less calories tomorrow. If you change your mindset on that, your body and your head starts to speak to you and to your gut in a much better way. And you view food very differently. You view food as nourishment, basically, and as information for your body. And that's the way I like people to look at it, okay? Proteins. So in relation to planning food, we'll get to the tips in a minute. But the key proteins that I would be looking at as seeming to be healthy, you've got your pure proteins. What does that mean? That they are just protein. There's nothing else in them, okay? So they are on the meat spectrum and fish. So all of your meats, seafood, and your fish. Tinned fish has merits to it as well, okay? When a fish has been put into a tin, in general, it will have the bones still in. In those bones, just like our bones, there's calcium, okay? So tinned fish is a really good, cheap, and easy and effective way to get good nutrition into yourself in relation to planning as well. Quick and handy, okay? Eggs, lots of nutrition in eggs. There's healthy fats in there in the yolk, lots of protein in the whites if you're okay with the whites. A lot of people aren't okay with the whites of eggs, so be cautious on that one. If you're intolerant to something as well, by the way, that intolerance tends to be on the protein side of things. So if it's gluten, it's the protein in gluten, gliadin. Egg whites is protein. A lot of people are intolerant to egg whites. If it's dairy, it can be the protein as well. Okay. Dairy, another great source of protein if you're okay with eating that. And legumes, what do we mean by legumes? At the moment, trending a lot because the vegan world has taken off. So it's all your lentils, your chickpeas, your beans. Okay. Now these are a mixed protein and carb. So there's carbohydrates in those proteins as well. Okay. Carbohydrates, what do we mean by carbohydrates? These are the things that give you energy, okay? Protein is for growth and repair. Carbs give you energy, okay? I would say to you, ideally, you should be looking at most of your carbohydrates to come from vegetable sources. So whether that be sweet potato, your root veg, your parsnips, your beetroots, etc., your greens, your colored veg, the rainbow veg, okay? And your fruits. And then you look at the grains, okay? Add in the grains. So the higher you tend to go in relation to a grain, the more fiber is in it. So you've got brown, red, black rice, more fiber than anything else, more protein as well, okay? Spelt, buckwheat, good grains as well, whole wheat. So in general, if you think about grains that are, yes, less utilized, they tend to be less harmful. I don't want to use the word harmful, but if they're less utilized, they're less refined basically, and they tend to be tolerated a lot more on the human body. So we've become a world now that like eats a lot of wheat, okay? And a lot of the world has become, you know, wheat sensitive as a result. Whereas if people add in spelt or buckwheat is gluten-free, by the way, it's not as utilized. Therefore, that means, you know, there's not as many chemicals potentially being sprayed on those crops. So you could be able to tolerate them a lot more. So just be mindful on that one, okay? In relation to cereals, oats, Weetabix, Oatabix would be good, less on the sugar side. Shredded wheat is literally just wheat. There's no sugar in it. And then handy kind of carbs to have at home if you're preparing meals, just quick, you know, carbs to have as part of your lunch or breakfast or in the office. Oat cakes, Rivita, whole wheat pittas, brown rice cakes. So all these things, no cooking required, and they're just there, okay? Your breads as well, rye bread tends to just have rye in it and maybe a little bit of salt and yeast, really good. Resistant starches, what do I mean by that? Okay, so these are your starchy, either carbs or grains that have been let cold and are not reheated, which basically makes the fiber in them more fibrous, or turns, sorry, the carb into a more fibrous fiber, and they then are resistant to digestion. So we as humans cannot digest fiber, okay? It goes to our gut and it does the job there that we need it to do in order to have a bowel movement, okay? So a starch, a starchy carb or a starch in a whole grain carb, once it's cold, becomes a resistant starch, meaning that more fiber gets into it and it helps you to basically flush out toxins from the body. It's fibrous, okay? That's a good tip as well. So if you overcook on your pastas or your rice, sweet potato, keep them in your fridge, use them the next day, cold in your meal prep, okay? Your fats, okay, what are we talking about? Good fats. Olives, olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, coconut milk, cream oils, your nut seeds, the variety of them, and butters, avocado oil, flax oil, rapeseed oil. I meant to say at the start, take notes on all of these. I hope you are if you want. Sesame oil, butter, and ghee. What's ghee? It's unclarified butter. It's used in Indian cooking a lot. It is a higher smoke point. Okay, what do I mean by smoke point? Smoke point basically means the level of heat that an oil or a fat can maintain itself, keep all of the good nutrition in. So some of them have a higher smoke point than others. Ghee is one of them. Other ones would be flax oil, avocado oil, sesame oil are all good for cooking with, okay? Olive oil too, not extra virgin olive oil. I would use extra virgin olive oil as a dressing, okay? Your store cupboard stock, essentials to be adding into your planning and preparing, okay? So apple cider vinegar, really good for you and good for the gut. Balsamic, your herbs and spices, soya sauce. Look on the back of that one. A lot of them can have a lot of sugar in them and a lot of wheat as well. So have a look there. Posadas, tomato puree, tinned tomatoes, your tinned fish, your tinned legumes, frozen veg, berries and fish. Okay, so now I've talked you through the stock that you might need to plan and prepare. So now let's look at the planning and preparing. What should your food plate or your storage container for your to-go look like? Start with the veg, okay? Aim to get like 3 portions of veg if you can in at every meal, okay? Lots of greenery going on, okay? Then add in your protein, your carb, and your fats on top of that, okay? Why? Bristol Stool Chart. I love to throw it in to a lot of my presentations. It's really important, okay? There used to be a huge taboo around, you know, talking about your bowel health and stools, etc. It's really important that we are aware that this is really important for our health, okay? So like I said, the more you chew, the better you poo. Equally, the better the food you eat, the better your stool health will be, okay? We should all be going to the bathroom minimum 1 time a day for a bowel movement, if not more. In Asia, they would say twice a day, okay? And the consistency of your stool is really important too. So check this out later. Google it, Bristol Stool Chart, see where you fall in. You should be falling in or around type 3 or type 4. If you're not, you need to look at type 3 or type 4 every day. If you're not, you need to be looking at what you're eating and how that can be impacting this, okay? Right, my top tips for planning and preparing your food. Just as well, I forgot to say at the very start, questions and answers, if you have them, please note them into the chat at the moment if you want as I'm going along. Christina will feed them back to me at the end. Or at the end, please feel free to jump in and ask your questions as well, okay? So my top tips, right, I've mentioned it already, what's your why? In everything that we do, really important that you know why you're doing this, okay? Is it to lose weight? Is it to look younger? Is it to have a better bowel movement? You know, what is your purpose in this, okay? What's your context? Key as well for me is for everything that I personally do in my life, create awareness around it. Why am I doing this? Educate myself, you know. Then you need to adapt, okay? Small steps, aim for progress. You know, Rome was not built in a day. And then action it to its full potential. So aim to make slight adjustments to your meal planning and prep at the start. And at the end, like I said to you, I literally dream on a Sunday what my food's going to look like potentially for the full week. You might get to that point, okay? So start small and aim to get to where you like to get to. So micro goals lead to your big macro goal at the end. Really important as well that you schedule time to do this. A lot of people struggle with getting organized, okay? If you do, and you're really good, if you struggle with getting organized for yourself personally, but in your work environment, for example, or in your home life, if you've got kids, you're really good, well then you can do it. You have the capabilities to do it, but you just need to apply the time to do it. Do that. Take time out. Schedule time to give yourself time to plan and prepare. So I would say to you, if Sunday is a good day that you're not working, if you work, or that you're not busy with family, friends, whatever it is, block out an hour on a Sunday to plan what your meals are going to look like for the week ahead, okay? Before you do that, check your cupboards. What have you got? What stock is in there, okay? Given the list that I've just given you, now do you need to top up on things that you like, okay? Don't overload yourself with buying new things and feel like, God, I've never tried lentils, chickpeas, or black rice. I'm going to give all of those a go on Monday, and you're not going to like any of them, potentially, let's say. Fingers crossed you would, but if you didn't, then it potentially could be a waste of money, and we don't want to waste things. So try one new thing per week at a time and see how you go. Make your shopping list. Add one new food to your list every week. Aim for variety. That's what I've just said, okay? So variety is the spice of life. Make that shopping list and shop when you are full. I'm sure you've all heard this before. I used to be a business teacher, this was a key tip, you know, in relation to the budgeting element of business for younger children, okay? Shop when you are full. Don't go on an empty stomach, okay? Aim to practice, basically. If you aim to practice, that creates consistency, which builds habit. So practicing like a sport, if you start out playing tennis today for the first time ever, and you practice tennis 5 days in a row, you're building consistency. That's 5 days of playing tennis. You're getting into the habit of it. What's going to come with that? You're going to get better. And then you'll feel successful that you've done that. When we create a happy, positive emotion around what we have done, the chances of us being more consistent around that and it being a habit are likely to stick. So if I look at the example of brushing your teeth, you start out when you're a child. We do it, hopefully most of us do it twice a day now, okay? You do that successfully twice a day for your whole life and you have healthy teeth as a result of that, that's success. You're going to keep, you've kept doing that, I would say, right? Same thing with your food planning and prep or anything that you do, all right? Build into routine. If you're struggling with getting it to become a habit and routine, leave the things out. So leave your storage containers out on a Sunday morning as an example. If you think you're going to batch cook on a Sunday evening and Sunday morning you wake up and you're like, I'm really tired, I have an hour now to plan my meals for the week, then I want to go grocery shopping, I'm not really sure if I'm going to be able to do the batch cooking tonight, but I'd love to get around to it. Leave those containers out. I can nearly guarantee you when you come back in from doing your shop and you're putting the stuff away, your next step will be containers are out, I'm going to go straight into batch cooking. And maybe at that time you'll be like, I'll just cook my Sunday dinner now as well as doing my batch cooking. So it's all about utilizing your time to your best abilities, basically, okay? As I said at the start, be flexible, okay? It's all about balance and flexibility. That is life, okay? And adapting to circumstances. So, you know, to be rigid and to have a plan and then for that plan to not happen and for you to eat yourself up about that, that's not a good way to be, okay? Go with the flow in relation to it, but equally be mindful that if you have a plan, it is good to try to stick to it. But what do I mean by have a backup plan? If you're in a situation like your car or your office or at home where you might run short on time, a meeting might run late, you mightn't get the half an hour lunch break that you wanted, have stuff there, like I mentioned, the Rivita, the oat cakes, you know, hummus, nuts. There are many things that you can have to hand that are really easy just to grab and to eat that you don't need to prepare or time to prepare, okay? I've mentioned about the storage containers. Batch cook and freeze your portions. Okay, so if you set aside time on a Sunday evening to batch cook some meals, so let's say you're going to do a chicken curry and a load of sweet potatoes baked, okay? You then portion them out into your containers, freeze off a few, and they're ready to go for evening meals, for lunches to go with you, okay? Veg is another one that I say to people, really good idea. So a lot of people say, when I ask them, you're like, do you go shopping often? Yes, I'll go once a week. Do you waste stuff that you buy? Yeah, particularly the veg. Veg is always the one that I get, okay? So if that is you, a tip there would be when you come home from cooking, if you've bought a load of veg and you're looking at it and it needs to be cooked and you're thinking, when in the week am I going to get to cook this? Cook it all in one go and freeze it. Like most of the veg that you can cook, you know, whether it be steamed or roasted. So if you roast your Mediterranean veg, if you roast your root veg, that can all be frozen. Just like your frozen peas, your frozen green beans, your Brussels sprouts, they're already pre-blanched for you, ready to recook again, okay? So do the same with your own cooked veg. I'm a big fan of one-pot wonders, one-pot pans, one-pot roasting dishes. That's the way I kind of cook for myself a lot. So as an example, if you wanted a nice fish dinner, you could put in some like, you know, hake into your roasting tray, throw in a load of veg, some lemon, some capers, some olives, whatever it is that you like, into one pan, into your oven, 20 minutes tops. There you go, there's 4 meals. And then your carb in on top of that, you might have sweet potato already in there. Bake a sweet potato, boil a sweet potato. You might want to bring some bread with you to work or whatever it is, you know, to add in your carb. So every meal you're looking to food combine with some protein, carbs, and fats. So that's key here, okay? Portion sizes around that are, in general, protein is your palm size, carb is your fist size, and fat, if it's an oil, it's a tablespoon, and if it's nuts and seeds, etc., it is a small handful, okay? Then you fill the rest of your plate with your green veg predominantly and other veg in or around that, okay? Food combined at every meal, just talked about that. So proteins, carbs, fats in every meal, okay? Ask yourself, do you need to snack? Ideally, your plan should be 7 days of the week if you want to do an Excel spreadsheet or write it down. They say that when you write something down, you're 80% of the way there to achieving it. So on a Sunday, if you write down what my Monday through to next Sunday is going to look like in my 3 meals of the week every day, the theory says you're 80% of the way to achieving eating those 3 meals for the 7 coming days, okay? So 3 meals a day is really good. You don't need to have pretty plates. This is really key. My plates should see what I eat some of the time. I look at the plate and I go, oh my God, this tastes amazing, but like looks awful. I'm not a chef, okay? I don't spend time plating up to look like it's restaurant quality. I focus on looking at my plate and going, what nutrition is in this for me? How is this feeding my body right now? And am I going to sit and be relaxed and enjoy the taste of everything that is on my plate? That is what is key is for me. In that regard as well, I tend to not use recipes myself personally, okay? Occasionally I will, but on a whole, I tend to just go with my taste palette and what I know that I like. So I would say the same to you. Experiment with your food. Be curious, okay? Really, curiosity creates such a great platform for you to learn and grow in relation to food and everything, but in particular food and nutrition, okay? You will be really, I suppose, you might get a new sense of like excitement around planning and preparing your food if you're combining the taste yourself and the different elements to your meals yourself, and in the end you like it, you'll be like, wow, created that myself, no recipe required, you know, and that's success, and therefore you're going to want to keep repeating that. Okay, diary your progress. So if at the end of the week you felt you had a really good week planning and preparing your food, take note of that, give yourself a pat on the back, be proud of the progress that you've made. Always look to review, adapt, and adjust everything you do, okay? So at the end of the week, Sunday, before you plan for the next week, look at your previous week. How did it go for you? You know, did you like those meals that you cooked? If not, why not? Take out the foods that you don't like and try to add some new ones in. This is a big one for me as well. Don't view food as a treat. You know, we get sold a lot in marketing. Have your treat day, have your treat item, okay? If you want something tasty to eat that's not, you know, deemed to be the healthiest thing to eat, have it. You know, that's your balance. But don't view it as a treat, okay? Food is information. If you start to change your mindset on that it's information and nourishment, I promise you, planning and preparing things and how you view food going forward becomes a lot nicer headspace to be in, if that makes sense, okay? You should never punish yourself in relation to not eating food or reward yourself by eating food, okay? Food is information, okay? Your health is in your hands. This is my last point, I suppose, to make to you on that, okay? Our health, particularly on the back of the pandemic, and what have we learned from that? If we really look at the lessons along the way, okay, we've never washed our hands as much, right? Our health is in our hands, literally in every element of every aspect of our lives, okay? In relation to food, eat well to be well, okay? Feed your gut. What do I mean by that? 80% of our immunity, I've done an immune talk for Iconic before, but the theory is now that 80% of our immunity is in our gut. What do we want to do with our gut? We want to feed it really well with lots of prebiotic fibrous foods, okay? So there are things like garlic, ginger, fiber, your fermented foods like your sauerkraut, etc. Think fiber, that's feeding your gut. By doing that, that will protect your immune health, okay? And support it as well going forward. Aim for progress, not perfection. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and the person said that if someone procrastinates, they strive for perfection. That is what is stopping them from doing something. So I would say to you, don't procrastinate, just do it, in the words of Nike, okay? If you've always struggled to plan and prepare, just start, okay? Do it, procrastinate less. If the first week doing it wasn't great, progress to be better the second week. You know, we can't be perfect in everything, in anything really that we do. So strive for progress. That's it from me, okay? These are some websites. I'm not going to link onto them now because I'm conscious that I've gone a little bit over the 30 minutes there, and I want to open the floor to questions and answers. But if you do want to look at healthier recipes, check out Dr. Mark Hyman's website. So I have the link there, but if you literally Google Dr. Mark Hyman, he has a healthy recipe section there, okay? So he is the guru of functional medicine in the US. Great podcast as well. BBC's healthy eating recipe website is really good too. So if you follow BBC's recipes, they have a section on healthy eating recipes, really good too. They break things down in relation to specific diets like vegan, vegetarian, etc. The Doctor's Kitchen, another doctor, Dr. Rupi, he really good recipes on his too. Lots of variety in there, lots of veg, lots of legumes, etc. Lots of spice too. He likes to cook with a lot of spice. So the Doctor's Kitchen, Google him, Dr. Mark Hyman, and BBC's. They'd be my top kind of pick on the healthy side of recipes if you want to follow them. And my contact details, if anyone would like to get in contact with me personally, I work with people one-on-one, do corporate talks like this as well. Like to help people with grocery shopping too, and the times when we can get out. So there's my details there. It's Rachel@EatFoodRight, and all on my website too. Thank you for listening, and thank you for taking the time today on your Wednesday to join me.